Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm here again with a brand new story. Enjoy the story, and don't forget to share your valuable thoughts in the comments.
What if the most terrifying discoveries in human history were never meant to be uncovered? What if beneath ancient ruins, hidden under layers of dust, stone, and forgotten time, there were secrets so disturbing that entire civilizations tried to erase them from existence? History is full of mysteries. Lost cities, missing kings, cursed tombs, unexplained symbols and artifacts no one can truly explain. But among all of them, there is one story that stands apart. A story so strange, so unsettling, that even today, historians still debate what really happened. This is the real mystery of the Tomb of the Screaming Man. In 1886, French archaeologists working in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt made a discovery unlike anything they had seen before. The Valley of the Kings had already become legendary by then. For centuries, it served as the burial ground for powerful pharaohs and royal families of ancient Egypt. Hidden among dry cliffs and endless desert sand were chambers filled with treasures, hieroglyphics, golden masks, sacred scrolls, and mummies preserved for thousands of years. But one tomb was different. Unlike the grand decorated burial chambers of kings, this tomb was hidden in a smaller, less remarkable section of the valley. At first, archaeologists thought it might belong to a low-ranking official or servant. They were wrong. As workers carefully cleared the entrance, they noticed something unusual. The tomb had been deliberately sealed in a rushed and almost careless way. Not the elegant stonework expected for royal burials, not the sacred protections usually placed over noble tombs. Instead, it looked almost as if someone wanted to hide the chamber as quickly as possible. Inside, things became even stranger. There were no colorful paintings celebrating the afterlife, no gold, no ceremonial jewelry, no sacred texts guiding the dead into eternity. Just silence. Heavy, unnatural silence. At the center of the chamber lay a single coffin. But even before opening it, archaeologists felt something was deeply wrong. The coffin was plain, undecorated, and made from cheap materials, highly unusual for someone buried in the Valley of the Kings. When the lid was finally removed, the team froze. Inside was a mummy unlike any ever discovered. Its mouth was wide open, not slightly parted, not naturally loosened over time. Wide open in what appeared to be a scream. Its face was twisted in visible agony. Its skin, though dried by time, still carried an expression of terror. For a moment, some workers reportedly refused to continue. They believed they had disturbed something cursed. The body itself was also highly unusual. Unlike traditional Egyptian burials, this mummy had not been carefully wrapped with respect. Its limbs were awkwardly positioned, its wrappings were rushed, and most disturbingly of all, the body had been covered not in fine linen, but in animal skin. In ancient Egyptian culture, being buried in animal skin was considered deeply impure, a sign of disgrace, a deliberate insult, something reserved for those considered spiritually corrupted. Why would someone buried in one of the holiest royal valleys be treated this way? Who was this man, and what had he done to deserve such a horrifying burial? The answers began to emerge years later. Scholars studying ancient records connected the mysterious mummy to a dark royal conspiracy. The body may have belonged to Prince Pentawere, the son of Pharaoh Ramesses III. Ramesses III was one of ancient Egypt's last great warrior kings.
He defended Egypt from invasions, maintained order, and ruled during a period of increasing instability. But inside his own palace, betrayal was growing. According to ancient judicial papyri, a plot known today as the Harem Conspiracy unfolded during his reign. The conspiracy was led by one of the pharaoh's secondary wives, Queen T. Her goal was simple. She wanted her son, Pentawere, to become king instead of the rightful heir. To achieve this, she organized one of the most shocking assassination plots in ancient Egyptian history. Servants, officials, guards, and members of the royal household were recruited. Magic may have even played a role. Ancient texts describe wax figures and spells being used to weaken palace guards and create chaos. The plan was to murder Ramses III and seize the throne. For centuries, historians weren't sure whether the assassination succeeded. Then, in modern times, CT scans of Ramses III's mummy revealed a horrifying truth. His throat had been violently cut. A massive wound sliced deep into his neck. He had indeed been murdered. The conspiracy had worked, at least partially, but the plot failed to secure the throne. The conspirators were captured, trials were held, punishments were severe. Ancient court records describe executions, forced suicides, mutilations, and public disgrace. Among those punished was Prince Pentawere. Though records avoid explicitly detailing his death, many scholars believe he was forced to take his own life, possibly by poison or strangulation, a death sentence disguised as suicide. This would explain the twisted expression on the screaming man's face. Modern forensic studies suggest his mouth may have remained open due to cadaveric spasm, a rare phenomenon where muscles freeze instantly at the moment of extreme stress or pain. If true, his face may genuinely reflect his final moment.
Not a symbolic scream, a real one. Imagine that. A prince, son of a pharaoh, raised among luxury, power, and sacred tradition, reduced to a disgraced corpse, buried in humiliation, denied proper rights, wrapped in impurity, sealed away as if history itself wanted to forget him. And yet the mystery does not end there. Some experts argue the expression could be explained by natural decomposition and post-mortem muscle relaxation. Over time, mummies can develop unusual facial appearances, but critics of this explanation point out that the screaming man is uniquely dramatic, far more expressive than most ancient remains. Even more puzzling, Pentawere was still of royal blood, despite his crimes. Why bury him at all in the Valley of the Kings? Why not erase him entirely? Some theorize this was a compromise. His royal status earned him burial in sacred ground, but his betrayal ensured he would be denied dignity, neither honored nor forgotten, instead trapped between both, a prince suspended between privilege and punishment, almost as if his burial itself was designed to tell a warning, a message to future generations. This is what happens to traitors. Yet thousands of years later, his face tells a different story. Not just betrayal, fear, pain, regret, something deeply human. That is what makes this story so haunting. Ancient kings are often imagined as distant, godlike figures carved in stone, untouchable. But the screaming man reminds us that behind the monuments were real people, families, ambition, jealousy, political warfare, desperation, and consequences. The same forces that destroy lives today also shaped the ancient world. Power can corrupt,
ambition can blind, and betrayal often consumes both victim and betrayer. The prince who may have tried to steal a throne did not gain immortality through glory. Instead, he became immortal through horror. His frozen expression became his legacy, not a crown, not a kingdom, a scream. Today, the mummy remains one of Egypt's most disturbing archaeological discoveries. Visitors and researchers continue studying him, hoping to answer lingering questions. Was this truly Pentawere? Did he die by poison, hanging, or execution? Was his expression natural or evidence of genuine agony? Some answers may never come, and perhaps that is why this story continues to fascinate the world. Because history does not only preserve victories, sometimes it preserves warnings. In dry desert chambers and silent tombs, humanity leaves behind evidence of its darkest choices. Not all mysteries are unsolved because we lack intelligence. Sometimes they remain unsolved because the past refuses to fully reveal itself. And somewhere in the Valley of the Kings, among golden legends and royal ghosts, one face still appears frozen in eternal terror. A prince, a traitor, a victim of his own ambition, or perhaps even something stranger, a man whose final moment was so horrifying that thousands of years later we can still see it, still feel it, still wonder. What did he see before he died? And why does it still look like he is screaming?
But if you think the story ends there, with the discovery of the Screaming Man, history has one more layer of darkness waiting beneath the sand. Because the deeper archaeologists studied the tomb, the more unsettling the details became. The body itself was not simply unusual, it was almost intentionally contradictory. On one hand, the burial showed signs of royal access. Only someone connected to the highest levels of society could realistically be placed inside such an important sacred region. On the other hand, nearly every funerary tradition designed to protect the soul had been denied. To understand why this mattered, you have to understand how ancient Egyptians viewed death. For them, death was not an ending, it was a transition, a dangerous journey into the afterlife. The body had to be preserved carefully because the soul, known as the Ka, needed a recognizable vessel. Sacred rituals were performed to ensure safe passage. Protective amulets were placed among wrappings. Spells from funerary texts guided the deceased through supernatural dangers. Most importantly, the mouth-opening ceremony was performed. This sacred ceremony symbolically restored the senses of the dead, allowing them to eat, breathe, speak, and function in the next world. Without these protections, a soul risked eternal suffering. This is what makes the Screaming Man so disturbing. His mouth was open, but not in the ceremonial sense. There is no evidence the traditional mouth-opening ceremony was respectfully completed. Instead, his expression suggested distress, a terrible inversion of sacred symbolism. It was as though the very ritual designed to give peace had been replaced by an image of endless torment. For many Egyptians, this would have been horrifying, not merely a punishment in this life, but potentially in eternity. And that may have been intentional. Ancient legal records surrounding the harem conspiracy reveal a society obsessed with order. The pharaoh was not simply a king, he was the divine center of cosmic balance. Known as Ma'at, this balance represented truth, justice, harmony, and stability. To attack the pharaoh was not merely political rebellion, it was an assault against the structure of reality itself.
a crime against both state and cosmos. This explains the severity of punishment. Conspirators were not just killed, they were symbolically erased, their memory damaged, their dignity destroyed, their future in the afterlife threatened. In ancient Egypt, memory was power. To be remembered was to continue existing. To be erased was a second death. Some pharaohs even had rival names chiseled out of monuments to eliminate them from history, a brutal form of immortality destruction. Yet Pentawere presents a paradox. He was not fully erased. His body remained. His tomb existed. His face survived. Almost as if history could not decide what to do with him. Neither forgiven nor fully annihilated. Half preserved, half condemned. This ambiguity has fueled endless theories. One theory suggests Pentawere may not have willingly joined the conspiracy. Perhaps he was manipulated by his mother, Queen T. Raised inside palace politics, surrounded by pressure and ambition, he may have been less mastermind and more pawn. Ancient royal families were notoriously dangerous environments. Succession disputes were brutal. Mothers fought for sons. Brothers competed for power. Alliances shifted constantly. In such a world, survival often depended on political aggression. If Pentawere was pushed into the plot, his story becomes more tragic, not simply villainy, but inherited ambition, becoming fatal destiny. Others reject this sympathetic view. They argue Pentawere was fully complicit. After all, becoming pharaoh meant unimaginable power, absolute authority, divine status. History repeatedly shows what humans will risk for power: wars, assassinations, family betrayal, civil collapse. In that sense, Pentawere was not unique, only unusually well preserved, a timeless example of ambition destroying itself. Then there is the question of how exactly he died. Modern science has examined the mummy extensively. Some researchers suggest strangulation. Evidence points to unusual neck compression. Others favor poisoning. Ancient forced suicides often involved poison ingestion. Both theories align with judicial punishments recorded for elite conspirators, but neither fully explains the facial expression. This is where the mystery becomes even darker. A rare condition called cadaveric spasm has often been proposed. Unlike normal rigor mortis, which develops gradually after death, cadaveric spasm can lock muscles instantly, usually during moments of intense emotion or trauma, fear, pain, shock.
If Pentawere truly died under extreme psychological distress, his face may indeed preserve his final emotional state. This possibility is chilling. Imagine being sentenced not just to death, but to spiritual disgrace. Knowing your body would be denied sacred protections. Knowing your name would be stained. Knowing your soul's future was uncertain. For someone raised inside Egyptian religious belief, this may have been a terror beyond physical death itself. Not merely dying, but dying without eternity. That fear alone could be enough to break a person. And perhaps it did. There is something deeply unsettling about looking at ancient remains and feeling immediate emotional recognition. Thousands of years disappear. The gap between modern observer and ancient human collapses. You are no longer seeing history. You are seeing fear, raw and recognizable. That is the power of the screaming man. He is ancient, yet psychologically familiar. Because beneath titles, crowns, dynasties, and rituals, humans have not changed much. We still chase status, still fear humiliation, still betray, still suffer consequences larger than expected. This is why ancient stories survive, not because they are old, but because they are mirrors. And sometimes those mirrors are uncomfortable. The story of Pentawere is not merely about a failed prince. It is about the dangerous collision between ambition and morality, about how power distorts judgment, about how family loyalty can become destructive, about how short-term gain can create permanent ruin. Queen T wanted a throne for her son. Instead, she may have destroyed him. Ramesses III sought dynastic stability. Instead, he was murdered within his own household. The conspirators sought control. Instead, they became historical warnings. No one truly won. That may be the darkest part of all. Ancient conspiracies often feel dramatic and distant, but underneath them lies a pattern still visible in modern life. Greed, manipulation, entitlement. The belief that one more unethical act will secure success. History repeatedly disproves this illusion, sometimes slowly, sometimes catastrophically. The tomb of the Screaming Man is therefore more than archaeological curiosity. It is physical evidence of a collapsed ambition, a monument to consequences. No inscription was needed, no explanatory text. His face became the message, a warning carved not in stone, but in flesh. And perhaps that is why people remain captivated by him. Because unlike polished statues and idealized monuments, he feels real, messy, human, broken. A reminder that history's greatest horror is often not monsters or curses. It is ordinary human desire pushed too far. Still, one mystery refuses to disappear. If Pentawere was punished so severely, why preserve him at all? Why not destroy the body completely? Some historians believe royal blood made total destruction politically or religiously difficult. Others suggest practical limitations. But a more haunting theory exists. Perhaps preserving him in disgrace was intentional, a permanent exhibit of failure, a royal cautionary tale hidden underground, not for public display, but for eternity itself. A condemned prince frozen between worlds, neither honored ancestor nor forgotten criminal, just a face locked in permanent unrest. And after more than 3,000 years, his silent scream continues to outlive empires, outlive dynasties, outlive everyone who condemned him. In the end, perhaps that is the greatest irony. Pentawere may have sought immortality through kingship. Instead, he achieved it through mystery. Not remembered as ruler, not remembered as hero, but remembered forever. And in ancient Egypt, perhaps that alone was a kind of victory, or perhaps a far crueler punishment.